The word final in video games has about as much meaning as the word retirement in pro wrestling. That is to say, none whatsoever. Final Soldier, released in 1991 exclusively for the Japanese PC Engine and would not see a global release until its debut on the original Wii Virtual Console a decade and a half later, is the third main game in Hudson Soft's famed Star Soldier series of vertical scrolling spaceship shooters. Contrary to the name, however, it is not the final game in the series because a year later Soldier Blade was conceived and released to the masses, and we got a couple more afterwards, Vanishing Earth on N64 and Star Soldier R, which was a WiiWare release. I might be missing a couple others, but the point being, Final Soldier is about as Final Doom, except nowhere near as ball-bustingly hard because there were no Casalis involved in the making of Final Soldier. Nobody is going to get that. Final Soldier is typical vertical scrolling shooter fare. Things shoot at you, you blow them up, you occasionally fight big bosses, you shoot pods to pick up power-ups that will boost your firepower and increase your limited chances of resisting damage, and the cycle continues for about 7 stages or so. There are also caravan modes of the 2 and 5 minute varieties, how high you could score within the time allotted, that sort of business. I do like that the pods are conveniently labeled this time around, so it isn't a guessing game as to what does what. For the record, M means missiles, L means lasers, F means fire, and F means Vulcan testicle pinch. Oh wait, that's the wrong script. Never mind. Final Soldier has an interesting little feature in the form of a setup screen at the start that lets you determine how each weapon performs. So you can set it so that your laser weapon can shoot lasers or bubbles, your flamethrower can be replaced with a fireball launcher, that sort of thing. I do like this feature as it allows players to experiment with different kinds of weapons and see what fits best with their style or preference. Of course, this is something you have to set up before starting the game, and this requires you to select the option in the first place. So if you're one of those folks who pop in a game, turn the system on, and just keep ramming that run button to get to the actual gameplay portion, you'd be missing out on this sweet feature. Final Soldier may seem a bit tamer in difficulty compared to its predecessor. Generally speaking, getting a fully powered spaceship shouldn't take long, at which point the first few stages feel like a bit of a walk in the park. But once you near the end game, that's when shit starts to hit the fan, and one life lost later, you're pretty much screwed. Fortunately, there's an option to toggle the difficulty if things aren't quite to your liking, and the game in general plays exceptionally well. Control is pretty slick and responsive, the action holds up quite nicely, and if you're aiming for a quick game, there are caravan score attacks that serve that need just fine. Final Soldier is not a bad looking game. Though admittedly, the early levels look to be a bit on the bland side of things, but once you dive into the back end of the game, that's when you're greeted with some more interesting and varied scenery. Once again, lots of unique looking bosses, explosions are tremendous, the action is fast and frantic with little to no slowdown, which is either a blessing or a curse to the shmup player person. Likewise, Final Soldier is no slouch in the audio department either, hitting hard with some of the finest wallpaper music to bang your head to while blowing up some space trash. Of course, I say this game is no slouch in the audio department while also pointing out that the explosions still lack a bit of punch. I mean, come on guys, Mega Drive had more punch in their explosions. But then they had more twang in some of their games, so you know what? Keep your tinny boom boom sounds if it means more great shmuppy chip tunes. I'll take the trade-off here. Overall, Final Soldier is a worthy follow-up to Super Star Soldier and a fine shooter in its own right on a console that is full of fine shooters. Unique customizing feature opens up some replay possibilities and it's just a fun game to boot, so yeah, well worth checking out.